So let's talk about how to be more creative. Every day that goes by, I get more creative. And that is based upon how I have spent the day. And so, what I want to share with you all are proven techniques on how to further develop your creativity. So, the first place we want to start with is defining the role of an artist in society, because designers are artists. The word designer is just sort of meant to differentiate those who make a living doing art from those who do art for themselves. And I really don't know why we need that designation, but we created it. So I use the terms interchangeably because to me, you can't be a designer without being an artist, and you can't be an artist without being a designer. I should look up the dictionary definitions to see how they define the difference. But I know, just as a societal thing, we actually use the term designer to talk about a profession. So think about whose work you admire, and then ask yourselves, why do you admire their work? How did you even notice their work in the first place? There's a lot of artists in the world. Why are they recognized by their peers? And the answer to all these questions is actually creativity. In the art world, it is your creativity that allows you to rise to the next level, to stand out, to be different. As I will tell you, and you will hear me say to every student I teach across multiple disciplines, your goal is always to create something no one's ever created before. Okay, so if my mouse will cooperate, here we go. When you start to mix globalization, democratization of technology, and creative minds who can see color where others only see shades of gray, there's an incredible potential for radical shifts in our society. And those who make those shifts are artists. So more than any other time in history, there is now a breed of creators who travel past both conceptual and cultural boundaries. So we are now living in a new world that is being designed by the minds of artists and assembled by the hands of everyone working together with a shared vision for a different kind of world. We're sort of at that paradigm shift right now where art is no longer seen as unnecessary. Art is no longer seen as a hobby. Art is no longer an afterthought. The job of the artist is to upset all the senses and thus provide new vision and new powers of adjusting to and relating to situations. Artists can change the world. And that's a very hefty power to have. If men were able to be convinced that art is a precise advanced knowledge of how to cope with the psychic and social consequences of the next technology, would they all become artists? Or would they begin a translation of new art forms into social navigation charts? I'm curious to know what would happen if art were suddenly seen for what it is, namely exact information on how to arrange one's psyche in order to anticipate the next blow from our own extended faculties. You know, we talk about, in society sometimes, we talk about art as if it's this thing that is a luxury. And as you all have now seen from the lectures we've covered, material we've covered so far, it is not at all. Art is based on science, and that science is actually based on the psychology of the human being, the human mind. And that is why if you were to suddenly remove all the design from the world we live in, people would lose the will to live. It is the designed world, or our designed environments, I should say, that allow us as human beings to live lives that are meaningful. So what we do, the service we provide, because not everyone is capable of being creative, is paramount to a healthy society. Because we, although not always knowingly, we provide a level of comfort that humans need psychologically to be well adjusted. And artists who influence society are those who are willing to let their work become so creative that they attract an audience. If you have somewhere along the way had some of your creativity stolen from you, it is absolutely possible to reclaim your creative mind. And I'm going to give you some techniques for doing that. Apply them and watch your influence grow. First of all, you need inspiration rituals. What inspires you? Figure that out. And the best way to figure that out is by trying new things. So one of the best ways to inspire yourself and create every day, and that's why I could say to you earlier that I'm more creative today than I was yesterday, because every day I create something. Every single day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't create something. And it may not be physical. It may just be in my head. I design something every day. I think about ways to design every day. I call it an addiction. And, other artists always laugh when I say that because they relate. They understand. They're laughing with me. And I'm sure most of you all are understanding that this is not something you cannot do. Okay? So if you develop rituals that you use regularly and routinely, and one of the main ones I'm going to suggest is a sketchbook, it will condition your brain for better creativity. Now, there's some basic things you can do, but the main one I suggest is absolutely getting a sketchbook and drawing in it every day. Get one of those. I have one of those, and I just saw it the other day. I'd forgotten about it. I have one of those cat puzzles where it's all those little pieces of cats, and they fit into this cube, or this. It's not a cube. It's a rectangle. And then you can take them out and shift them and rearrange them like puzzle pieces. And it allows you to be creative. You don't need that. You could use anything. That's why I think so many of us had and loved our Legos. So any new habit that you wish to develop requires practice. And it just goes back to the fact that initially you're very aware consciously of what you're doing. And that conscious brain has to communicate to your unconscious brain by repeatedly doing the same thing. Because short-term memory, your brain hangs on to something for about 10 seconds. And then it says, am I going to keep this or am I not? And most of the time, it doesn't keep it. So the more you see something, it begins to establish, it starts to send a message to your right brain. There's a pattern here that I need to be paying attention to, and I need to get this recorded in my long-term memory. So that is why practice is essential. That is why most of the time when you do something very complicated the first time, you're not going to do it very well. And it's interesting how many people just give up. They'll try something once and not be good at it and say, move on. So some of the things you can do is read before bed, sketch your dreams. I dream almost every night. There's architecture that has never been built before. Most of it's unbuildable in my dreams. Some really fantastical stuff. Sketch that. It'll give you ideas. Even if you have to water it down later because it's not buildable in your dreams. My dreams, the buildings in my dreams are not buildable because they're too big. But you can always scale them down. Watch people. There's a lot of great inspiration there, right? We just got done covering storytelling. There's a connection. I should say sit on the ground in an outdoor space. And I'll tell you why I put this in here, because this is something I do a lot. It's a whole different world down there. When you get closer to the ground and you start looking at that world that's down there, you change your perspective. You find new sources of inspiration. And so then that leads to, well, okay, if I'm going to sit on the ground, what if I'm going to go somewhere and climb, take the elevator all the way to the top of the building and go to the roof and look down? And you start to realize that as you change your perspective and you get a new perspective, that helps add to your creativity. Pareidolia. Try to find the shapes in clouds and water stains. Find the faces. See them where they're not, and see what happens. Write poetry. Doodle on paper while listening to music. Browse artwork of others for inspiration. That really helps. And again, right, we're not copying anybody. We're just being inspired by what other people have done. That happens to me a lot. I'll see something and I'll be like, oh, that's really cool. But then I'll go and do my own version of it. And, I'm at a point now where I'm making things or creating things that are one of a kind because of that, because of decades of doing this. Free your mind. As vague as that may sound, giving yourself an hour a day to do whatever you want, as long as it's creative, can be great at unblocking your mind. In the beginning, when things are new, you sometimes get blocks, mind blocks. And they're generally fear-based. You don't yet know, you're not yet confident in yourself as an artist for the most part, so you're afraid to make mistakes. Well, I'm going to tell you, make them. Make those mistakes. Just do it in your sketchbook. Do it away from an audience. Do it away from other people. Get that experience. Because there is nothing bad about making a mistake. Make them. For one, it'll take away their power to stop you from creating. And for two, their practice. They count. The more unique and original experiences you have in life, the more unique and original your artwork will be. That's absolutely true. You're going to draw from sources of inspiration that other people don't have. And then you're going to start to combine the different ones together. So in order to create a new work that no one has ever created before, you really have to get outside the box. And you can only get outside the box if you're willing to get off the beaten path and walk into the weeds. And this means exploring new things with an open mind. This level of creativity in this artwork comes out of a mind that is open to the possibilities. Okay, we're going to stop this here and continue in the next video.